Pisces. Pisces and new moon people. It's after the new moon, but I've been looking at it just as we were starting. I've left your cards, so to see... Sorry, the last mic has dropped, so I've got this funny thing in my hand. And it's quite low, unless I hold it right next to me, so I'm afraid we're just going to have to do it like that tonight. I've laid your cards, just to see whether you want to stay around. It's quite sort of epic, mythical energy in the beginning, and we're talking about... The basis of the reading is very fiery, and it's about fighting for some sort of good place in the world, fighting to make the right partnership, the right celebration, the right marriage. And there's a bit of disappointment around it, and we are going to cap the final result because I'm a bit confused by it, but let's dive in. So, you in the interior, the moon, for the new moon people. This one jumped out rather decisively, and I like this illustration of it because she's so close to it, and I love these octopus's tendrils coming from her dress, and her friend, the the fox. Let me just have a look if anything else comes to light. He's baying, and she's sort of feeling things out behind the scene, because we know that octopus's tentacles are very sentient. They all have their own sort of way of feeling and being. They have their own personalities almost. So there's a sense of you really feeling things out. I know some people say with the moon that it's about confusion and things, but this almost seems like the opposite with those tentacles. It feels as if your wild side is feeling things out, and you're quite happy in the environment. You've got your companion. It feels quite good to me, to be honest. How that makes you act in the outside, I like this. Again, a different reading of our normal Seven of Cups. Here, instead of looking up and not quite knowing which one to go for, you are going for something. You're picking one of these stars, and you're feeling very relaxed and resplendent with that hair flowing and your body becoming part of the clouds. So it's interesting. We've started the reading already. It sort of suggests that there's a difference in the normal way of seeing things. Things are a little bit upside down. It almost feels, Pisces, like you're quite comfortable in the regions and the places other people feel confused by. You don't. That's the feeling I'm getting. You're quite adept at navigating those areas. You have extra spidey senses, like your tentacles and your big cloud, to sort of get you closer to those potential cups, so that you really know what you're doing. Very connected to the sky. I wonder whether there is something astrological that maybe I'm talking to people who really know a lot about astrology, or maybe your particular astrology is starting to work quite well for you. So other people would be really confused in this time, and I think you are not. At the basis of the reading, we've got this 4 and 5, this 4 of Wands, which we love, and the 5 of Wands, which actually is the 1-5. Fives all being in Mars. It's the 1-5 that I feel... Oh, sneeze. Excuse me. I don't even have hay fever. I wonder what that's about. Unless I do now. The 1-5 that is really quite positive, this 5. So here she's moving these pieces of chess pieces around the board, being rather competitive in this game-like way. Usually we see all the kids unleashing all of their energy. Now, I did hear someone talk about the 5s today in a way that was really interesting to me. They sort of said that the 5s are all when you're being challenged because something is not in its right place, or something is not in its right place. If we think of the 5 of Cups, which is coming up, disappointment, we think of the 5 of Swords, feeling as if there's a sort of mental fight going on, things aren't quite clear. 5 of Wands we've got here, and 5 of Cups, we've done that. 5 of Pentacles, feeling very left out. So it's as if one's consciousness is slightly in the wrong place. That's interesting, because this is the one where, again, it's slightly subverting I mean, to be honest, I really like the Five of Wands anyway, but this is slightly subverting it even further. She seems rather in control. She's not just one of those kids who's got their sticks up, if you know the Rider Waite, where they're all fighting in this fun, competitive way, because it is, actually, the Five of Wands is quite a fun card. It's not that. Here, she's bigger. So we're following this theme of you actually feeling a little bit more in control, and it's not as frantic. You are the figure that's moving these pieces, and it's not as frantic as that Five of Wands energy normally is. So I think you've really got a kind of handle on quite a kind of strange hinterland type environment that you're in, but you're doing really well. And you're about to do a checkmate here, so I love that. And so this is the basis of the reading. You feeling competitive, in it to win it, but also within this particular card, actually rather serene and full of restraint somehow. Yeah, all of these energies aren't overwhelmed by their environment. And what you're trying to do is get yourself into this perfect partnership. So more of this wandy energy. I just love this. That beautiful home, these beautiful trees, which are making the Four Wands. Everything looks so good, this multi-layered home, which you'd kind of like to explore in, really. Yeah, the two birds sitting on the lights and two people holding hands and sort of looking celebratory here. It's interesting that the birds are sort of standing out to me more than the people, which is how they are illustrated. They're closer to us, and the people are just shadowy. Whereas, yeah, it's a bit like everything else that's happening, is that you're so at one with your wilder, more natural self. Now, this could be coming up because we're recording this, although it's timeless, on Beltane. So there is a feeling of, nature spirits. The drive of nature at this time of year is unbelievable, and we've had this incredible day today, 1st of May, when I'm recording it. It genuinely is a timeless, though. But we've had this incredible day of sort of crazy heat, which I think a lot of Europe has had. So it's felt sort of alarmingly woken up in a way. I don't know whether that's the right way to describe it, because we're not quite ready for it. It's gone from 0 to 60. So the drive of spring and the drive of that kind of, the drive of the wands has woken up and is being informed by your ability in most of these pictures, not her, interestingly enough, because she's looking rather sort of prim and proper. She slightly reminds me of Emily Dickinson for some reason or other. I wonder whether Emily Dickinson has a poem about chess. I imagine she does. But it's that kind of quiet, demure woman who you wouldn't really expect to be so subversive and incredibly creative, and probably not half as sweet as they talk about her. They always go on about her being this sort of isolated single woman. Now, I know that the Netflix show, the Apple show, has probably made it feel a bit different from that, but certainly when I was at university, which is a long time ago, that was the impression I always got. And actually, I read an introduction to one of her poetry books the other day, which was making out that she was actually a bit of a goer and quite a cow if she wanted to be, much beloved by her nieces and nephews, really fun, always so full of joy, but quite sort of headstrong and not nearly as demure. So that's the kind of energy that this is giving me. Oh, I'm so sweet and I'm at home and I've stayed at home with mum and dad. But she probably actually in reality stayed at home with mum and dad because she didn't really want to be married to anyone. That seemed like a very bad idea to her. Okay, that's an interesting idea to unwind when your other card at the basis of this reading is about marriage. So maybe this is right, we've maybe got somewhere. So it's about your response to the social norms, which I know are no longer so much of a big deal, but the social norms that you're surrounded in, however that might take form, probably around partnership, certainly around, I want to say partnership and good sort of making partners business-wise or with people and how it is you think you're meant to do it, but you've got this very headstrong idea. Sorry, you don't think you're meant to do it. Your society has an idea of it, and you've got this very headstrong and different idea about what you're going to go about. I think that's how you're going to go about it, and I think that's what this reading is about. You're informed by your wild nature, and you're actually prepared to pick quite an unusual star with that Four of Cups, or an unusual cup, informed by your madly creative, madly on point instincts. In the recent past, there is a disappointment with this Five of Cups. This isn't as fun as that other one. So you have been disappointed. I don't know if this is... It says recent past, so I don't know recently whether you've had some love problems. Whether you've had some love problems, but certainly you're travelling across this watery expanse that reminds me of the Six of Swords a bit, although it's not. But there's this feeling that you've got to get across a kind of a little bit of a difficult emotional time, and you have done. And that's fed into by the fact that in our potential outcome we've got the Eight of Cups, which again shows you in your beautiful wild nature in these pictures, making some crossing over water, which is really about emotions, isn't it? So recent past, you're disappointed about something emotionally, in emotion, and you have to change your focus. And here in the potential outcome, you're still making your way across, away from what you've always loved without kicking it down, but needing to find a new way, either totally reinventing your life and leaving this thing, or finding a new way of emotionally relating, which feels like it feeds into that that idea of you apparently not ruffling any feathers, but with some very different ideas about partnership. Now we see you actually acting those out in the Eight of Cups, finding a new way to do things around love, around partnership. Now this doesn't necessarily mean love partnerships. It can be any kind, but it probably will feed into those. In the near future, the King of Cups, and there's two depictions of King of Cups in this deck, and this one he's got the sharks on him, and he is holding the ship, and he looks resigned to these emotions, but there are some sharks here, aren't there? So there's a feeling of still being in the water, still needing to navigate these unconscious realms, but we know you're good at it. Just you might have had quite a hard time recently, but you do have the skills to go about it. So let me see if anything comes out to me on him. Yeah, the jaunty way he's got his hand in his pocket, as if he's saying, I've got this. He just looks a bit sad. It's as if, I've been here before, don't worry, I'll get through it. But he is sad, I'm sure. And that's the remnants of the disappointment. Now, when we get into your attitude, this is interesting because you've got these incredible innate skills, albeit a difficult time. But when we see your attitude, there's a sense of wanting to stay stuck. And it's interesting because, again, we've got this kind of prim, slightly Emily Dickens-esque character, a bit like the competitive side of you that's all dressed up in her dress and not really letting anyone know, and the chessboard's on her dress. Here, your dress is becoming part of the fence that keeps you at home. The home is in your very dress. So your attitude is you're not really prepared to let people know how wild you are. You're stuck in this. It's like people have this wrong view of you, like that Emily Dickinson thing. I think there is an aspect of that. Interesting. In your environment, though, the wands come back in again. So the Page of Wands. So I don't know if you're surrounded by people who are, quite open-minded and exploratory and excited by everything, but obviously this shows an explorer and somebody that would be very far from home. So around your environment, even if it's in home, it might not be such a normal domesticated setup. Maybe you live in an unusual shared house, or maybe maybe this is you in your environment. Maybe this is your inner world that feels so sort of passionate about things while pretending to be quite normal in a way, whatever normal means to your society. But also, I feel like there is exploration going on here, because the Page of Wands normally is kind of looking here, looking there, doesn't quite know what to be interested in next. Here, I feel like you've got a little bit more concentration. There's some interesting birds behind you, and this toucan is speaking to him. Birds speaking to you, which is interesting. So it's as if your intuition is speaking to you, but in your environment, either through you or someone you're related to, there is quite a woken up, interestingly young, excitable energy. Despite your attitude being, I want to keep everything as it is, I want to stay in this position. And then again, in your hopes and fears, another young energy, but here we've got the Page of Swords. He's standing on these books. He is holding the dandelion as if he's got a wish, but the Page of Swords, he's a wonderful youthful idea of, he has youthful ideas, he has strategy, he can make it up as he goes along, and he probably will get away with it somehow. So these two youthful energies, one in your environment and one in your hopes and fears. You want a new start. You want to think through things, make it your version of things, I feel. Your version of home, with all your passion in it. Your version of a marriage, of a safe space that allows quite a lot of passion in. And so the passion is there. I think it is you, to be honest, or it's who you love. And now you've got to use your brain about how do you make up this new, unusual circumstance. And then our outcome. So we got the 9 of Swords as the outcome, which is when you're worrying in bed. But in this version, she's got all these eyes on her. And I think this is relevant. I think you're worried about how you will be perceived with this unusual alliance, marriage, celebration, setup that you're trying to, partnership that you're trying to bring in board. You might be over-egging the worries, because to be honest, that's what we usually say about the 9 of Swords. It's when all those swords are above the head normally. Here she is in bed. She's got rather a beautiful backdrop that could be about to come true, but she's not seeing it. She's in this nighttime thing. She's very worried about other people's opinion. Or almost this idea of an evil eye, I sometimes think when I see that. Worried you're going to be badly received and thought of by some people around you. So I pulled another card to go with it, and we got the 3 of Wands, which comes back to that tentacly, that. So now you've sort of got your back to everyone else, your back to those worries, and you're holding the ship that he was holding so close to him. So this is again saying, no, these are my emotions, however difficult they are, I have to honour them, and I'm going to take them, and I know what I want to go for. I can see it. It's beyond this town. It's somewhere far out to sea. I know where I want to conquer. It's fascinating. So we're gonna pull a charm at the end, and before that, I'm gonna pull a La Lua. I haven't got the box. We're gonna pull another card. So I'm gonna put this in the stand while I just shuffle them quickly. Oops. Pulled you off the stand. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. So let's just pull you your capping card. My slightly ad hoc setup here before the sun goes in. So this is to cap, to see, specifically I want to know, so you know where you want to go, but you're slightly worried about other people. Is there anything we can do to help you with what you worry about in terms of other people's opinion? The Ace of Swords and the King of Coins. I love it. It's back to that kind of we've got the Ace of Swords and the King of Coins, the King of Pentacles. So I was asking specifically, how do you move from the worry of that 9 of Swords? And we've got the Ace of Swords, which is very like your hopes and fears, which is that you hope that you'll have that incisive, clear thought of the Page of Swords. Again, yeah, we hope so. And here, this is how you're going to do it, is just get your very, very clear thinking out. It is it is within you, and it's interesting they're both wearing crowns here. It is within you to think very clearly and differently. It's sort of Emily Dickinson keeps coming to mind. You know, those pithy little poems that were so different from everybody else's view. They were so modern. We read them now and they make total sense to us. So it's something like that. I think you're a bit of a visionary, and don't worry what other people think. You will, in the end, bring this into a sort of King of Pentacles, into some sort of, you know, the King of Pentacles would be well respected, I think, through raising your sword of truth. Truth has a ring to it. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. Eventually people will respect truth, is what I feel. And somehow you're raising your sword of truth, being that youthful Page of Swords, and standing up for your unique vision of partnership, or what it is you're doing in your marriage or your celebratory life somehow, with all your passion. If you do that, you then bring it into this King of Coins, into some sort of acknowledgement from your community that is not so tricky anymore. And you will start to be sort of, not establishment, because I don't think that's your aim, but acknowledged by establishment. So I don't know if you can hear in the bag. I'm going to keep going around here, and let's get you a little charm or two. What have we got? Okay, we've got the charm that my boyfriend just gave me that came out of a Kinder egg, which is an owl. Where is it? There we go. That's lovely. Your wisdom. That's like your inner hermit. Your inner wisdom. You cannot ignore that. And what else have we got here? We've got the stag, which is so like the King of Coins for me. Because I think in the other deck that I'm using, the Mystical Moments deck, the King of Coins does actually appear as the stag. So for me, this is emphasizing, yes, he is. He's got stags with coins in them in his antlers. So this is emphasizing you arriving in a safe space where you're held by your community, where it could even be that kind of character who stands up for you, who looks out for you, that kind of male energy, not necessarily male person, but it's feeling protected and looked after. So you've got stag, the owl, and what have we got here? I think it's a little angel. It's beautiful. No, a little fairy. What could be better for Beltane? The fairy spirits, the elementals must be around. So I think that's lovely, because I think the fairies would be fully in appreciation of you if you were doing something a little bit unconventional. You know, I find myself talking on these videos and stuff. This is normal to me, but then when I think of, you know, when I do a short about fairies or something, or I talk about the elemental world, I'm sure there's plenty of people I know who would look at this and think, this is nuts. But it feels so true to me. There's a kind of poetic truth to it, so it doesn't really matter. It's talking about this world, this beautiful natural green world, so it doesn't really matter if you really believe it or not. I do think there are elementals, and I do think you are being given the protection of the elementals, because I think they like your wisdom, and I think they like your unconventionality, and they want you protected. But it's interesting that the stag came. The stag came to remind me that the other version of the King of Pentacles that I've been looking at a lot recently is related to nature, the wisdom of nature, the grandeur of nature. And maybe that's a big part of you, really, is that you can hear these more natural worlds, maybe elemental worlds, or maybe just your deep, deep instincts, your deep unconscious drives that don't scare you, that you're quite comfortable with accepting and not squashing. And we want you to keep going that way. So thanks very much for stopping by, and see you again.